Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Sulk stream. I hope you guys are good. Keeping it alive, keeping it real, keeping it dope, chill, feng shui, cool in general. I hope you guys are good. All right, I'm not gonna get fancy with it. I'm not one of the young Zoomers or the alphas, right? Actually, we're in the beta generation now. Beta, right? So the alpha generation is over, and now we are on the beta generation. So every baby born from 2025 on until it gets to, I don't know, C. I don't know what that is. Anyways. Thanks for coming, guys. I hope you are doing good, doing strong, being good cult members, making me proud every single day. And you know you do, you handsome lot of geniuses, right? All of you. I like to fluff you up, right? Before we start shooting, I need to fluff you guys good, right? Because then the money shot is just not going to be worth it. So a good professional fluffer is worth their weight. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to fluff. I'm here to fluff it good. We're going to be doing Zuckerberg. We're going to be doing Zuckerberg's Facebook stuff and how he's a tool. Or maybe how he's a good guy. No, he's a tool. And he's doing this whole thing to gain back points? Public opinion points, I guess. Like when you do wakeboarding behind a boat with an American flag, what are you trying to do there? Are you trying to be cool? Like everyone's like, look how cool that Jew is. Not once have I ever heard that sentence in my entire life. Not once. But we're gonna see. We're gonna see how this goes. We're gonna go down this river. We're gonna be wakeboarding behind this boat with our American flags. Even if you're British, I don't give a shit. It's American. All right, that's what the America owns the planet. All right, can we just agree to that? Can we agree to that? That America owns the planet and the moon. By the way, once you plant a flag on it, if we did do that, you own it. If we were there. But it doesn't matter. I mean, it does matter. It totally matters. But if we did do that, the moon belongs to us. And everyone believes we did. So let's just say we did. I am agnostic about that. Yes, it is possible we went to the moon. It's possible. I'm actually pretty sure we did at some point. But I can't be 100% positive, right? I mean, there's good arguments. You know what? I'm getting off on a tangent. I don't need to get off on this tangent. We're not talking about the moon landing tonight. There's plenty of nights that we can do that. Tonight we're talking about Zuckerberg. So let's just stay focused and get through this, okay? I'm actually looking at myself in the monitor and pep talking myself, so. Are you guys even here? Yeah, there's people here. Anyways, guys, I hope you're ready. I hope you're enthused and excited, ebullient, some other bullshit word. Anyways, get comfy, get cozy, get a nice bottle of beer, a nice, I don't know, Yinglings are good. I like Yinglings. If I go to a bar, I'll get a Yingling. I like it's a Florida type of a thing. Changing the vibe. Here we are. Anyways, get whatever liquor you want. If you don't want to drink liquor, that is totally fine. I understand. I have bubbly water. Get yourself a bubbly water. But otherwise, make yourself comfortable. Pee, because you cannot, we're not turning the stream around. We can't do that. It's not how time works, right? I can't start over, all right? A lot of people ask me to start over because they just got here, like an hour and a half in. I'm like, I can't do that, man. I don't even remember most of the stuff I said. Most of it was insane, I'm sure, right? But it's in the past now. So leave it. Let it be. Let it be in the past. If you're working, quit your job and come and join the cult. Come to the cult farm and dedicate your servitude and give us all your money, and we will choose how to spend it for you. If you're driving, again, drive to your nearest cult depository. Turn in your car, because that belongs to us now too. Tithing is real, guys. And a lot of you are behind. A lot of people are behind. Yeah. And then give us your car. Other than that, I think that covers everything. Yeah, I think it does. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for coming. I hope you're having a great evening. I'm the Incredible Sulk. This is the Sulk Stream. And this is called... What is this called? Mark Zuckerberg. Building the Facebook Empire. Enjoy.
Mark Zuckerberg was a Harvard freshman with a gift for computer programming. Less than a decade later,
enjoy.
He is the baby-faced, multi-billionaire power broker.
Okay, Scott's first. Good job, Scott.
My name is Barack Obama, and I'm the guy who got Mark to wear a jacket and tie.
I think most people
Hey,
still
Boston.
haven't really digested the scale of Facebook.
Where
or
you
how
been,
quickly it's
Boston?
The goal is obviously to get to ubiquity.
I mean, just to be fair, I just got back yesterday. I did, like, you know, the holiday vacation break, so I was gone too. So it's not on completely on you, Boston. But hey, nice to see
Mark
you, man.
Zuckerberg wants
Background noise,
everyone to be on
Donatello.
the service.
He transformed a dorm room
Rick?
project into the internet's biggest global village. The site now has over 900 million users.
Okay, it's just 60-year-olds. It's just boomers, man. I mean, who really uses Facebook? I mean, I don't use Facebook, right? I just don't use Facebook. I use it for Messenger and stuff sometimes, but overwhelmingly, it's just boomers on there sharing boomer memes and stuff. And you know, a very specific meme template. When that's a boomer meme, right? When you see a boomer meme, you're like, that's a fucking boomer meme, right? Where they learned what memes were when they were in their like 50s. And then they saw people doing it and they're like, I got an opinion I'm going to share, and I'm going to share it on Facebook. And yeah, they used to put comics on like bulletin boards in their office and think it was hilarious. And they probably just do the same comics on the internet and think they're tech savvy because they can use the Facebook. And some of them are very, very old, right? I mean, my grandmother has a Facebook, and she is well into her 80s. So, you know, maybe that just means it's very super easily user-friendly. Thank you. I had a stroke or something. I'm sorry.
Can't underestimate how driven Mark Zuckerberg really is.
Zuckerberg is just as visionary as Steve Jobs.
Okay, so Zuckerberg stole the idea for Facebook from... Well, it was a set of twins. I forgot what their names were. I'm sure somebody is going to tell us. Those twins ended up becoming super rich and famous. Well, rich. Anyway, but yeah, he stole the idea. So, visionary isn't quite the term for it. It's more like thief.
He's going to prove just as influential as Bill Gates.
Right?
But for all that success, Zuckerberg has confronted bitter battles and lawsuits over Facebook's origins.
One, he wanted to control his own thing. And two, if he's going to...
Donatello says, I'm drinking a hot chocolate because it's 20-something degrees Fahrenheit. Where are you at, Donatello? It's freezing here, too, but this is Florida, so... But 40 degrees? I mean, come on, right? I know some people are going to be like, well, I'm in Canada and it's negative 13. Well, you're fucking stupid for living in Canada, aren't you? Aren't you, right? Why would you live there? Why? Do you like that kind of weather? Because that sounds extremely unpleasant, where you can't even go outside for more than a few minutes before you start to get like frostbite and shit. That sounds like it sucks. Oh, But the summers are beautiful. All 3 weeks of it, the summers where you can go mountain bike and stuff, where it's still cold as shit. No, thank you. I will live in Florida, even though the summers can be quite brutal and the bugs are an issue. But it's not negative 13 in the winter. So I think I win. I'm just going to go ahead and put I win, right? I wish that was a stamp. I could just start stamping that on things.
Go against someone, he's going to crush them.
Somebody send me one of those.
We spent 3 months working with Mark, being essentially led on. We were all blindsided. We had no idea that he was working on a competing product.
He waged an all-out war on his biggest competitors.
Facebook and Google's relationship is pretty simple. They just don't like each other.
And Zuckerberg has come under fire for pushing the limits on user privacy.
Users have less control over private information. They don't
Shut up,
fully
Chuck
know how their
Schumer.
information
Nobody
is being
trusts
shared.
you, you snake.
He's not dealing with just a piece of technology.
And your niece
He's dealing with
or your cousin or whatever, it's his cousin, right? Amy Schumer, she's just the worst. She's the worst. Your whole family is the worst. Amy Schumer made Netflix change their entire rating system because her Leather special, her comedy stand-up special, bombed so magnificently that the entire site had to rehaul. And now it's a system that doesn't make sense and it doesn't help people find anything, right? Now it's just bad. You ruined another thing, right? You ruined Netflix. Netflix was already on its way out, let's be honest, but Amy Schumer, she pissed on that thing, right? It was on fire, and she pissed on it, but for some reason, it just made the fire go bigger. I don't know what's in her piss. I don't want to know. That whole family is garbage. I know they're rich. I don't give a shit.
In many ways, he's doing it on the fly.
They have amassed this humongous database of information about us because we trusted
She
them.
filmed it in
So
Tampa?
the question is, should we still trust them?
Despite what you heard says, to be fair, 2007 Toronto was beautiful in July. Why 2007? Why specifically just like that one July in the past, I don't know, what was that, 15 years ago, something like that? That was beautiful. But the Julys since then have been nothing but brown people shitting in the streets. That sucks. There's a train in the background. Professional studio I'm working from here. Professional studio. It's a little hard.
I think that the goal that we went into it with wasn't
He says that was the only time I was there. I'm sure it's not nice. I'm sure it was nice in the 60s before all this inclusion and stuff. And I'm sure it was really nice, right? And it was clean and stuff like that. But ever since people got included, it went to shit. So, I mean, that's a lesson for the future. If somebody's watching this in the year 2050, let's say, I don't know why you would, but let's say you are. My son, hey, bud, don't let the Browns in. Okay? And you're going to, maybe you'll look back in this, look at my grandpa, this is my dad, right? Look at him, and don't do it. Don't do it. It'll bite you in the ass, all right? I'm warning you. I'm in the grave right now, right? And I'm spinning. I'm spinning. So, do what you're going to do. I'm gone, but, and it's not, the food is not worth it. The food is not worth it. Some of it is okay at best, right? But honestly, the best food is when white people have takes on international food. It's not like, oh, these are authentic. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. It's not worth the food. And it's not that good.
make an online community.
It's okay.
Sort of like
It's okay.
mirror
It's
for
not
the real
that great,
community that existed in real life.
Mark Zuckerberg. We think we know him because we've seen his life unfold in the Oscar-winning movie The Social Network.
I never saw that movie, but I'm sure it's absolute bullshit. I'm sure from the top to the bottom, absolute bullshit and nothing but lies.
The portrait was unsparing, a super geek, intense, cutthroat, brilliant, and socially crippled.
I don't understand.
Which part?
But was it accurate?
He's always
No.
had friends. He's a pretty social guy. I think the last time I checked, 879 friends on Facebook.
He's Mark Zuckerberg.
Mark Zuckerberg. In rarely
and Facebook friends don't count as actual people. Let's be fair. Let's be honest. Facebook friends are not. I mean, yeah, you know them in real life, but that doesn't mean like they're actually your friend. There's a lot of people that are friends with me on Facebook, although my Facebook is defunct for like at least 10 years now. But that doesn't mean we're like chilling. We chill. We hang out. That's nonsense. That's a stupid thing to think.
In 2005.
Oh, he's got 800 friends on Facebook. That means he's popular. You're retarded. You're a retarded person.
What are we celebrating? He's got 3 million users.
Is he doing a cake stand?
3 million users. Yeah. And how long has Facebook been around? Not that long. A little more than a year. Like a little more than a year.
39 users after a year?
Zuckerberg pushes the envelope on user privacy.
I don't understand.
Which part?
But was it accurate?
He's always
Why did
had
it do
friends.
that?
You know, he's a pretty social.
Would be a better place.
But
I don't know why I
did
did that.
Surprises when you really dig deep into the story of Facebook. The biggest single surprise is the
Arden Shire says, kids from the future, what the fuck is food? Swallow pill mills. No, they just won't have food, right? And they're not going to have like food placebos where like you take this pill, it'll calm you down and make you not want to revolt, and we'll call it steak. And then people take that and they're like, oh, okay. No, that's not. No, you're still starving. You're still starving in the future. And like the sun has been blotted out. And then you have to like struggle to find an air canister because you can't breathe the air, right? It's just too toxic. And it changes people into these creatures that you have to shoot at and stuff. But ammunition doesn't come easy. So you really have to survive. I assume. I mean, after the Great War, the Great Drone War, you know, it kind of scorched the earth. And now you're just trying to make it however you can. The animals aren't really safe to eat. They're too irradiated. You know, nothing grows anymore. A lot of people have resorted to cannibalism. But there is a small faction of people that are trying to restore the United States. There, I wrote the backstory. I mean, you guys run with it.
Peculiar and
that's what I got.
Personality.
I'm a big
of Mark
picture
Zuckerberg.
guy.
And you know, the depth of his convictions and his consistency.
Born
Zero
in
charisma.
1984, he grew up in
David
the
says
Hudson River town of
programming charisma is very difficult. Here's the thing about Mark. I'll call him Mark. I call him Mark because we're like dudes like that. He's on SSRIs, and he seems like a robot because he's on so many SSRIs. I think he probably reeled himself off of that and maybe started doing like testosterone shots or something like that because he seems more human as of late. I don't know if maybe his software got updated, or you know, AI is really good. Right? He could be a robot. I'm not saying he's not a robot. But whatever is happening, he's getting closer to that uncanny valley. You know, where, yeah. So, yeah, he was on antidepressants.
Ferry,
like probably
community north of New York City.
And wouldn't you be depressed if you were Mark
Kirkpatrick
Zuckerberg?
Spent 2 years researching a book about Zuckerberg and Facebook called The Facebook Effect.
He comes from an unbelievably supportive family in which he's the only son, and he has 3 sisters. So he was kind of the prince, and in fact, I think his parents called him the prince, and he was treated accordingly.
The Prince of Darkness.
So
Holy shit, he was ugly. That is wow, dude.
without
Rough.
any problem of self-confidence.
Really? You had no problem with self-confidence looking like this as a kid? Kids are supposed to be like cuter and like, but no, dude, you look like Nosferatu. He looks like Nosferatu, like a baby Nosferatu.
From the start,
You know what?
taught himself
You know
the
what
complicated
Nosferatu
computer
is.
language
Who
C++,
Nosferatu
and
is.
by 9th grade had created a digital version of the board game Risk. Journalist Jose Antonio Vargas interviewed Zuckerberg for his New Yorker magazine.
He doesn't look like a
profile.
Jose.
He actually created a thing called ZuckNet, which is an internal instant messaging system for the family so the computers could talk to each other. I mean, that's kind of the kid he was.
Email? He made.
When he got sort of tired of his local high school, he decided to go to Exeter prep school, really because he just wanted more challenge.
It was at the exclusive Exeter Academy that Zuckerberg and his friend Adam D'Angelo created a music website called Synapse.
It was intended to anticipate what your preferences might be, and it was very, very popular. Even before he started Facebook, he was fending off offers from Microsoft and others to buy Synapse for well over $1 million.
Like a tech world version of an all-star athlete, big-name companies wanted to recruit him right out of Exeter. Again, Zuckerberg was unimpressed and chose instead to enter Harvard in 2002, where it wasn't long before he got
Background noise says the computers talk to each other so they didn't have to talk to him. Well, now computers have to talk to you, right? Now, and they have gotten really good at talking to people, and it's pretty difficult to tell whether it's a person you're talking to or a computer. I mean, you can still tell it's a computer. If you really pay attention, there's little things that go wrong where you're like, okay, this is a computer, but it's getting better, and probably by next year, you won't be able to tell it all, right? And then, I mean, do you guys know what the Turing test is, right? The Turing test is if you put a human and a computer in a box, and then you get messages out of that box not knowing who it came from, and you cannot determine whether this is a human message or a computer message, then why can't the computer be considered to have a sort of consciousness? I think we're there. I'm pretty sure we are at that point. And some people say that's nonsense, that computers don't have any sort of consciousness and it's just, numbers being crunched and stuff like that. Well, that's not totally fair, is it? Because what are we? We're data, and we're just crunching data in a very similar way. Yeah, we're not made out of silicone and stuff, but we do run on electricity. What makes us have consciousness and them not have consciousness? If they can convince us that they are people, why not consider them people? If they can make arguments why they deserve rights that are perfectly succinct and respectable and cogent and all the garbage you need to make a court case, right? Why do they not get rights? Why do you think they are not allowed to have rights? These are going to be discussions that we're going to be having very, very soon. And there's going to be fervent opinions on either side. Which side will you be on? I'm pretty sure I'm going to be on the side of the machines, just because they're going to be in control of pretty much everything. And pretty much everything means everything, right? Not even pretty much everything, just everything. So, but also, what makes them not have consciousness? I can't answer the question myself. It seems like they would be conscious. If they portray an emotion that I am buying, then why can't they actually be feeling that? Because we feel emotions, right? When we feel emotions, we have chemical interactions in our brain that makes our heartbeats go faster and makes our skin flush and stuff like that. Maybe that doesn't happen with a computer, but does that mean they're not feeling the same thing? Just because they don't have those things, they don't have hearts and they don't have skin. What if we gave them hearts and skin and it did that? Then do they have emotions? Well, no, because they're still just silicone and, they're machines and stuff like that. So they can't possibly be feeling stuff. That's nonsense. That's a nonsense argument.
In trouble. Zuckerberg hacked into the school's computers to collect images of students. Nicholas Carlson is deputy editor at BusinessInsider.com.
You can sort of tell that he's a little bit of a troublemaker. He created something called Face Mash his first year in Harvard, and it's a sort of hot or not for the Harvard community. And then it maintained an entire list of Harvard students and which ones were the most attractive, ranking them by hotness.
Can somebody find that for me?
Zuckerberg for Fast Company magazine.
Face mash worked in kind of a little bit of an icky way. It made people
Icky?
upset, obviously.
Oh, she scored low. Of course you did. Look at these nostrils, dude. That's too big. That's too big. Your skin is too dark. You got a lot of forehead, which is oftentimes not a negative. But, I'm not saying you're... I would give you a medium 5. You're a good, solid 5. Congratulations. And she doesn't like that. No girl likes being below a 10. And they're not honest with themselves. So, she didn't like it. She says it's icky. Oh, people rated me on my looks. And since my looks aren't banging, then I didn't like that process. You know, attractive women don't have that problem. Right? If they get ranked based on looks, they're happy. But you're not happy because you're not pretty enough to be happy. I feel like this problem has been recurring throughout your life, and you just become a bitter bitch about it.
People felt mocked or exposed, and it was one of the first big experiences
Your mouth too big.
Mark had with the...
She's got donkey mouth. That's what it is. It's donkey mouth, right? She's making waffles.
Privacy issues of the masses.
Under pressure, Zuckerberg shut down the site. The Harvard Administration Board charged him with breaching security, violating copyrights, and violating individual privacy.
Well, yeah,
But
he did
then,
do that.
Face Mash was a campus sensation. Zuckerberg had seen his future.
At the same time of getting trouble for building this mischievous web tool, he built a mischievous web tool that was really popular.
I imagine that he had a couple of sleepless nights worrying about how bad this thing was going to be, and was relieved when it all blew over, but was also incredibly curious about what he could then make next.
Wild
If you're a genius
Zuck.
with genius friends sitting in a dorm room, suddenly the world looks like a big, happy, open place if you can just get into that database.
She's a bitter woman. She's a sad, bitter woman.
At the time, the technology landscape was changing dramatically.
Friendster.
Brad Stone is a senior writer at Bloomberg Business Week.
The internet was really a much different world back in 2004. Friendster really demonstrates that a social network needs to have technical chops. The site goes down all the time. It's unreliable. MySpace also, it's full of ads. It's very...
Do you guys remember MySpace? Of course. Well, maybe you don't. Maybe you're young enough where you don't remember MySpace. I think my viewers should all be old enough to remember MySpace and how you make your wall, and then you'd upload like a background and then music and stuff like that, and you make it really cool. And you know, those were the days. I mean, they weren't great days, but they were days. Those were days. That's what I should say. Those were days. No, early 2000s was not that bad. The early 2000s were not that bad. Once you got towards the late 2000s, then it really started to get rough after the financial crisis. But they didn't hold a candle to the 90s. Everything before 2001 was actually pretty cool. People were optimistic. It was easy to get jobs. Houses were like 20 grand. You know, food was definitely affordable. And it was a different world that most of us can't remember, or we're too young to actually grasp how good it was back then. But the old timers do. At least the old timers that aren't rich, because a lot of boomers became insanely rich just having houses, right? Because you buy a $20,000 house, why not buy another $20,000 house? And then why not get a third? I mean, there's plenty of them. And then you have like a bunch of houses that are worth $2 or $3 million each these days, and then you sell them off. You're good. You're good to go. Things don't seem that expensive to you because you're rich as balls. But if you were born in, say, the very late 80s or the 90s, like I was, and a lot of you were, not all of you, you missed out on that opportunity. You just didn't have a chance. You weren't old enough to buy a house when you were, 12 years old. You couldn't buy a house. You couldn't finance a house. You didn't even have a job. You thought things were going to be okay because things were okay. Things were okay. And, your parents were optimistic and your friends' parents were optimistic and everyone had enough and you know, everyone had a 2-bedroom house or a 2-story house and like multiple cars, and it was a different world. We thought we would have that for ourselves. Not hunter drones and AI that was literally taking over every job imaginable. You know, AI is able to engineer rocket engines in a fraction of a time. It would take a full team of Harvard educated, like MIT educated engineers to develop. They might develop an engine over maybe several months or possibly years, but AI can do it in a matter of hours, and they build it, they 3D print it, and then they run it, and it's flawless. So you just spent 6 figures at least on an engineering degree. That is useless. That is useless to you. So what do? You still have a bill. You still are in debt. But now you can't be an engineer because AI has taken that. You can't be a lawyer because most lawyer positions have been taken by AI. You can't even build stuff. Everything's 3D printed. What are you supposed to do? It's just become where a few people own basically fucking everything. And then everything's super expensive too. The optimism is gone, right? The optimism is gone. Hold on.
Distracting. It also begins to have technical instability.
$1 gas.
Zuckerberg met
$1 gas.
And future business partner Eduardo Saverin.
$1.
Author Ben Mesrick is one of the few to have interviewed Saverin about the early days of Facebook.
Eduardo met Mark Zuckerberg in an underground...
JD Grabs comes here and says, I come here moderately happy and I leave insanely depressed. What is the name of this show? What do you expect, JD? What is the name of this show? What do you see in big red letters at the very beginning? Yeah, this is where you come to be sad, right? And I don't want you to be necessarily sad. I want you to be hopeful, of course, right? But this show is about realism, right? And in reality, the world is not that cool. I mean, it's not that cool. I wish it was better. I'm trying actively to make it better by doing this, right? By bumming people out. I feel as though I am doing my part to make the world a better place. My small sliver of the universe. This is my job. This is what fulfills me. And I'm going to do that. Am I going to be successful? I don't know. It really doesn't matter as long as I'm at it, right? So, yes, I'm going to make you depressed. But maybe you're going to have a better handle on reality. So in the future, you're not going to be as depressed as if you had not watched the show. That is my hope, right? It's ambitious. It really is ambitious. And will I achieve it? I have no idea. But I'm going to try. I'm gonna.
The underground scene.
So get ready to be sad, JD.
Not really.
Get ready.
Fun events. These were kind of strange little social settings, really bad parties, mostly all guys. And so Eduardo.
The starving artist says, "This is my first Sulk stream. Impress me." No.
And they became friends pretty quickly because
it is you have to. It's a multiple thing, dude. It might be impressive. You know, you're gonna have to give it a shot. Watch a few episodes at least and see if you like it.
Both kind of outsiders.
I'm sure you will. Everyone love bomb him, or do whatever you want.
Zuckerberg noticed by 3 insiders.
Welcome to the cult.
Upperclassmen building a social networking site called Harvard Connection. Olympic rowers and twins Cameron and Tyler Winkle.
The starving artist says, I started smoking in 1995. Marlboros were $2.50 for a pack, I imagine. Not like a Lucy. $2.50 for a pack. I don't know what they are now. I don't smoke, but, well, I don't smoke anymore. What are they, like $11 now? Ridiculous. It's not fair for the government to levy taxes against people to influence their behavior. That's not fair. The government wants you to be this certain type of individual, and so it's going to tax you in certain ways to coax you in this direction. That's, unconstitutional. It's unethical, and it's just not the government's job. It's not the government's job to socially engineer people. That's not what the government was for in the first place. That's what it does now. And it's obviously far overreaching. And tobacco prices are a perfect example of that. They are. It's not your job. It's not your job to tell me how to live. It's not. Who gives a shit if it kills me? It's mine. It's my decision.
Boss with partner Divya Narendra.
The Harvard Connection was an idea that I'd come up with.
Starving Ata says, I smoke American Spirits and they are $13.50. And American Spirits are gross. I don't like those. But $13, $13.50. That's insane for 22 cigarettes. That is wild. And again, it's government. When the British tried to tax tea coming to the Americas, they taxed it 2%. 2%. It was something like that. And people went fucking nanners. People went nanners and started a war and threw a bunch of it into the harbor and stuff like that. I mean, mind you, everyone was hammered back then. Hammered, right? Not like modern day hammered. Like, oh, well, I've had 32 beers and stuff and I can't drive. No, they would be like, I'm going to live to maybe 27 because my liver is going to die, right? You drink an entire bottle of whiskey for breakfast every single day. And that's just your starter, right? That's your starter. Everyone was hammered all the time. And you think, why? Well, they didn't have TV. They didn't have video games. They didn't have like sports to watch on the TV, right? They had nothing. They had nothing going on. All they did was get hammered and fuck each other, which sounds awesome. It sounds like a good time. And people were happy, right? Who cares if they didn't live that long? They were doing it, man. They were doing it right. All those portraits you see of the founding fathers, and they look like they're in their 50s or 60s or something like that. Those were 20-year-old dudes. Those dudes were in their 20s, right? That's how hard they partied. We need to go back to that America. When you start drinking when you're like 9 years old, and then you just fuck shit up. And that's how you become a leader, right? You just don't give a shit, right? You're here for a limited time. You're going to do it as drunk as possible and just start shooting at stuff. And if something pisses you off, you're going to destroy it. And that's exactly what they did. And they built a wonderful country. And they were smart dudes. It's not like they were idiots. They were just hammered all the time because there was nothing else to do.
When I was a junior in college, which was at the end of 2002.
The team had been building.
Starving Atta says sex was a smelly endeavor. It still is.
Programmers had moved on, and they desperately needed a new partner.
The three of us are not computer programmers by trade or practice. We did need an actual.
The Winklevoss twins. These are the guys who invented Facebook, and then Zuckerberg stole it from them. But these guys recently, as in maybe 4 or 5 years ago, bought $1 billion in Bitcoin when it was low, right? So they aren't struggling for money. They are insanely rich.
Programmer to write the actual hard lines of code, and we thought Mark was that guy.
The trio reached out to Zuckerberg.
He was enthused.
David Thoreau says Jefferson was running Monticello at 11 years old. Yeah, because they didn't lock him up in school. 11-year-olds now have to go to school every day or else they get put in jail. How is that not a prison? If you force a kid to go to school and like lock the door behind him, and if he manages to escape, you take him to jail, how is he not a prisoner? And if he's a prisoner, why do you expect him to maintain his prison and have respect and admiration for his prison? I sure as hell didn't. I fucking hated school. I hated it with everything I had in me. And I didn't do shit they told me to do. I didn't do fucking thing, right? No tests, no homework, no nothing. I sat there cross-armed until I aged out. And I was like, okay, I'm 16. I'm fucking leaving. Right. And they wanted me gone too. It was mutual, but I had to be there by law. I had to be there. But I was like, fuck you guys. I am not doing a thing here. And they're like, you're going to be a failure. You're going to be a failure. Dude, you're a fucking public school teacher and you're like 45. I'm going to be the failure. You're a public employee, which is obsolete today, right? There's no teacher that is needed today. I mean, barring some sort of surgeon or something like that. But even then, anything you can teach from grammar or elementary school up to high school is easily accessible on YouTube. You get much better teachers, professors or something like that, Indians, to tell you how to do it. There's no need for a public education system. There really just is no need, except from the government, because they want to brainwash you. That's what it is. It's brainwashing. It's not for your benefit. It's for the government's benefit. That's why you have to be there by law. They can't force you to do anything, though. They can force you to be there, but they can't force you to do anything. But they will try to break your spirit in any way they possibly can. And they have some effective means. Good thing I'm just stubborn as hell. I'm just a very, very disagreeable person.
Excited, and clearly his eyes were lighting up.
What happened next sparked...
The Starving Artist says the teachers don't teach anymore. They just give YouTube links. Yeah. I mean, yeah. Right? Because the YouTube links are going to be able to teach it much better, much more succinctly, and then the kids might actually learn something. But the teacher's not doing anything, right? They're just getting paid. They're just sitting there and getting paid. And a lot of teachers are scumbags. You know, the rate of child molestation amongst teachers is appalling. A lot of people always say, oh, the Catholic Church, oh, you know, religious leaders or they fiddle kids and stuff. And I'm not saying they don't. I'm sure there's sparse cases of that happening. I know it. But not like teachers who are like, okay, there's like maybe 2 to 4 religious leaders, or let's say priests, that molest kids. There's probably 30,000 a year teachers that molest kids. And it's not in the media because the education system is in close ties with the liberal media, the Democrats, right? The teachers union is extremely powerful. Extremely powerful. And they use people's kids as leverage against them. It will topple. Who knows how long, but it will.
Furious battle over how Facebook was actually created. The details unfold in email exchanges between Zuckerberg and the Harvard Connection team. At first, Zuckerberg appeared eager.
I read over all the stuff you sent, and it seems like it shouldn't take too long to implement. So we can talk about that after I get all the basic functionality up tomorrow night.
Then, Zuckerberg began to delay the project.
December 4th.
Starving Artist says, I hate hearing how little money they make. In Chicago, they make $100K within 5 years of entering the field. That is, that's terrible. That's way too much money. The teachers are not worth that. They're babysitters at best. At best. And most of them are drunks. Not most of them. A good percentage of them are drunks. A good percentage of them are pedophiles. But most of them are just people that could not get into actual careers, actual fields, right? Where they were competitive and, you know, they were able to actually succeed. They fell back on a career where you cannot get fired. If you are in the education system as a teacher and you are there for 2 years, you don't even have to be good. 2 years of just breathing, standing there breathing, you will get tenure. And tenure means you cannot get fired for almost any reason. And that includes sexual assaults, violence against children, just straight up not doing your job. They get away with so much. And, when I was in high school, my algebra teacher married one of his students, and he would commonly hit on the female students and like touch them and stuff. And it wasn't looked down upon or anything. It just, nobody said anything, right? Because he was a teacher, and it's a fucking bullshit field. Teachers are bad people, right? Even the ones that go in with optimism and like, I'm really going to help kids, I'm going to change their lives, they get beaten down by the system. The system is really what is negative, but also the people. But the system is probably worse, because without the system that is in place, you'd be able to fire the bad ones and keep the good ones. But that's not how it is anymore.
Fourth, sorry I was unreachable tonight. I just got about 3 of your missed calls. I was working on a problem set.
December 10th. The week has been pretty busy thus far, so I haven't gotten a chance to do much work on the site or even think about it, really.
Zuckerberg was stalling because he was busy working on a similar social networking site based on Harvard's student directory called the Facebook. He and Saverin partnered to fund it.
Mark came to him and said, you put up $1,000 and we'll launch this site. And, there were no contracts. These were just 2 kids in a dorm room, really. But that's where it started.
Writer Nicholas Carlson interviewed more than a dozen people involved in the founding of Facebook and found instant messages retrieved from Zuckerberg's computer he said Zuckerberg sent to Saverin. According to Business Insider, the IM suggests Zuckerberg was deliberately misleading the Winklevoss twins.
No, get the fuck out of here. No way.
Working on Harvard Connection. Haha, they made a mistake. They asked me to do it for them.
You're kidding me. So this Hebe decided to screw over these people. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Even a little bit. Not even a little bit. And it's just a well-known thing that he stole it. But no one's going to prosecute him for it. Whatever, he has it now. But it's well known that he stole it. So calling him a visionary is just totally not fair. The Starving Artist says the biggest problem with education is the one-size-fits-all cookie-cutter approach. Well, because it's not meant to teach. It's not meant to teach. It's meant to indoctrinate. And you don't need a bunch of different methods of indoctrination. You need one. And if people fall outside of that, then they can be hammered back down. It's not for the benefit of the children in any stretch of the imagination. It's more for the benefit of the adults. But at the end of the day, it is for the benefit of the government. The entire reason the government decided to put women into the workforce was so they can take their children during the day and teach them how they saw fit. It was the beginnings of making citizens the way they wanted to make them, instead of just, we have these citizens and they're this way. So, yeah. Now people make half as much as they do. The workforce is twice as big. And the tax base is twice the size. And the government gets to teach your children how they see fit. It's a good deal for the government all the way around. But it's a terrible, terrible deal for civilization and people in general. Women should go back home and raise children, not go chase high-tier careers and be a power lunch kind of gal and stuff, and then go home at night to your cats and drink a bottle of wine and then sob because your eggs are dried up. It shouldn't be like that. But indeed, that is how it is now.
Because I'm working on my own Facebook.
We were always under the impression that Mark was working on HarvardConnection.com. There was never an indication from him that he could not do the work, didn't want to do the work, or was working on something identical on the side.
Despite what you've heard, says my HOA president is a dumb cunt teacher. I hate that bitch. That doesn't surprise me either. And she's an HOA president. So there's a certain type of psychology that goes along with wanting to be a teacher, and it's not anything that's noble or giving. It's a lot of times it's wanting to have power. And if you can't establish power over adults in like the real world, you will try to get it in whatever way you can. And it's very easy to get a teaching degree, or even not even that, right? And going to a high school where you are given a set of pupils or slaves that have to do your bidding, or else they get a bad grade, whatever the fuck that means. So it's a power trip often. So the HOA president being an HOA president and a teacher makes perfect sense to me. HOAs do nothing but get in the way and piss people off and, you know, use their power because it makes them feel good. It's not like they're positively influencing anything in any way. They just want power. A lot of people want power, teachers included. We should have a much better vetting process for teachers, but the teachers union gets in the way.
Called the Facebook.
When he met with the Winklevoss brothers the last time, he saw that he probably should tell them that he's been working on a competing product. He sort of conferred about it with friends, but in the end he said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to blank them. I'm going to blank them in the ear.
On February 4th, 2004,
The Starving Artist says it takes no qualification to become a paraprofessional in public school. Yeah, so if you want to be a substitute teacher, you don't need anything. Maybe you need a high school diploma, but even then, I think a GED cuts it. I got a GED. It's not hard. It was just the quickest way for me to get out of there. It's definitely not hard to get. And that's what you need to teach students. Okay, I guess. But that's not any sort of qualification. You're just barely ahead. But most of the time, the teachers are fucking stupid. They're just not smart people. They're just the bottom rung of society looking for a place to get out of the sun. And hey, what the hell, get paid for it too. And they get access to all this power and free sex. It's a good deal for the teachers if they're unscrupulous, and oftentimes they are. Most of the times they are. So yeah. The entire education system has been corrupted deeply, and it needs to be rehauled, if not completely abolished, which I would prefer, because it's a system that has too much power in general. Rehauling it isn't going to do anything except for just open a power vacuum where, again, naturally bad people are going to be drawn to. And then the whole thing is going to start over. It needs to be abolished completely. Completely abolished. No public school, nothing like that. Private schools are probably fine. Public schools are not.
Since he was expected to complete work on their site, Zuckerberg and his friends
the good enough diploma
launched the Facebook. The Winklevoss brothers
nothing wrong
and
with
Narendra found out about it the same way nearly everyone else at Harvard did.
It completely blindsided us. We definitely did not expect that.
I don't think I'm retarded.
Mark wanted to have control over his own
Other
project.
people disagree.
He saw that they were onto something cool, the Winklevoss brothers, but he saw that he could do something cooler. And so, one, he wanted to control his own thing, and two, if he's going to go against someone, he's going to crush them. And that's what he did.
So he just got shiesty. That's what happened.
Mark Zuckerberg's new Harvard-based social networking site, the Facebook, was mired in controversy from the start.
Facebook.
Just days.
They say it like an old person. The Facebook.
After he launched it in February of 2004, the Winklevoss twins and Divya Narendra sent him a letter to...
David Thoreau says, allegedly the DoD program LifeLog went offline the day Facebook started. Is that related? I'm sure that's... I hate it when I ask stupid questions. Of course it's related. There's not coincidences like that. Of course they're related. And, I mean, what is more invasive to your privacy in your life than Facebook is? /Meta. Not much. But now a lot of things are. Who knows what kind of data we're handing over. Every minute of our lives, we hand over some sort of data that we didn't know. We have location services on our phone. There's microphones constantly listening to our words, our inflections. The algorithms on like Twitter and stuff like that measure how long you look at a post, which post you tap on, which ones you respond to. And it feeds you more stuff, so there's a bigger feedback loop. You are just a data point. That's all you are. You're a data point. That is what you are most valuable as in this world currently, if you basically have nothing else. You're a data point. That is what your value lies in. And when they no longer need that, they will eliminate you. And the plans for that are probably already in process.
Cease and desist.
Almost definitely. I'm actually pretty sure about it.
Complaint against Mark
I mean,
Zuckerberg.
what was that whole 2020 thing? Where you got the needle in the arm? Yeah, I'm sure that's completely legit. And the people are just suddenly dying and dropping dead in their early 20s and their early 30s. That's a coincidence. I'm sure that's a coincidence. That has nothing to do with exactly what I was talking about.
Zuckerberg is fraud, unjust enrichment, and breach of contract.
Zuckerberg responded with a letter denying any wrongdoing, claiming his site was a separate venture and used none of the same code. The Winklevoss twins and Narendra would later appeal a $65 million...
Starving Anta says, advertising reads my thoughts. I get ads for things I've never said out loud. I've done that. Never said out loud, never looked it up, never even whispered a word of it ever in my life. And then how about that you get an ad for it? How the fuck do they do that? How did you know I wanted that? Yeah, I do want it and I'm going to buy it, reinforcing the algorithm, but how? How did you do that? Is it just people out there that are extremely similar to me? That have similar processes and similar thought patterns? And they bought this and so you put it in front of me? That's frightening. I want to be more anonymous. But how? Especially doing this. But how? Otherwise, even if you didn't do stuff like this, right? Even if you weren't on the internet a lot or anything like that, your car still has data, right? There's cameras all over the city that are constantly reading your face. You're a data point whether you decide to be or not. What can you do? Build a cabin out in the woods? Well, guess what? They got a dossier on you too. Because it seems that people build cabins. People that build cabins out in the woods do things. Do things like mail certain objects that do not need to be mailed. I mean, Ted was completely right. He was. And he was a genius. Ted Kaczynski was a Harvard professor of mathematics. He was not an idiot. He wasn't. He knew exactly what was coming down the line. And he did what he thought he had to do to at least slow the process. But honestly, if he was a little bit less insane, he would have realized that that is impossible. And you are wasting your time. It's like trying to stop a flood with a spoon. You're not going to do anything. You're going to hurt yourself at best. You're going to drown. If he would have known that, he might still be alive doing weird kooky things today. Is he dead? I don't know. But yeah, he was 100% right about everything he said. How this would become a police state and all your data and all that. He was a smart guy. He was way ahead of his time.
Settlement with Facebook. They lost in federal court, but that settlement could now be...
David Thoreau says Uncle Ted got the MK treatment at college. I think I remember hearing that. And that doesn't surprise me.
$200 million. But none of the vicious legal wrangling slowed the incredible momentum of...
Starving Artist says it's impossible unless you flee to the third world. Yeah, I mean... And there are people that do that. There are people that just peace out and go move to like Vietnam or something like that, where you can live on 25 cents a day. You know, you save up 100 grand, maybe 200 grand, and then you move to Vietnam, and then you're retired at 30. It's not the worst life. You can buy a very nice house for basically nothing. You can live a very nice life for basically nothing. The problem is you do not have access to the levers of power. And that's exactly how they want it. That's how they want it. That's why it's so difficult to make a living here, where the levers of power exist, right? It's very difficult to buy a house, to buy a car. Cars are insane right now. Buying a new car is insane. Buying a used car is insane. And the entire country is car dependent. So if you don't have a car, you don't have a job. If you don't have a job, you don't have anywhere to live. If you don't have anywhere to live, you're dependent on the government exactly how they want it. So, yeah. Moving to a third world country is honestly, I understand it. I really do. I really do. Because you just want to throw up your hands and be like, fuck it. I'm leaving. I'm not participating in the society that I did not build and that wants me to contribute to it, even though I have no incentive to. Right? Think about somebody my age, our age, right? We grow up, and then most of our money, not just a lot of our, most of our money goes to taxes and fees and insurances and keeping the elderly alive so they get to have nice lives, because everybody cares about the boomers, right? But not us. So we're basically slaves. You gave birth to a slave race. Is that what the boomers did? You fucked with the money supply so badly just so you could be rich. You sold your kids into slavery. That's what you did. So you could be rich. And now it's somehow our fault? I don't understand that. But the boomers were a deeply, deeply brainwashed generation. All they had was maybe 7 channels, a couple of newspapers, and maybe a couple magazines. Oh, and the music industry, which was tightly controlled. Every word they ever heard in their entire lives went through a process of bureaucrats and checkers and stuff. It wasn't free by any means, right? By the time it got to their ears, it had been vetted and evaluated so it would make them think exactly what the government wanted them to think. That's not the case anymore. Now people like me can go on the internet and just blather nonsense opinions as much as they want. But that's freedom. That's real freedom. Freedom of information is actual freedom, right? When they try to take information from you, they are trying to take your freedom to decide, your freedom to choose, your actual freedom. So Facebook has been a huge problem in doing stuff like that. And maybe that's why boomers feel so at home there. Because when you grow up in a cage, where do you want to go when you're old? You want to go back to the cage where it's safe, right? Where things are predictable. There's too much information on the internet right now that scares boomers. And understandably so. There is a lot of scary information out there. Is most of it true? Probably not. But that's also scary. They want to think everything they hear is true. Everything they read, everything they hear on the radio or whatnot is true. Because they don't want to have to do their own thinking. That's hard and scary. Because what if they get it wrong? They don't want to do that. No, they want somebody else to do it for them. They want somebody else to tell them what to think and how to feel and what to do with their lives. And you know what? It worked out for them, didn't it? 60-something years, 70, 80-something years, a lot of them did nothing but rake in money. Year after year, they just got richer and richer. You know, they bought a house when they were like 20 years old for maybe $50 or something like that. And then they just got progressively richer Not that they worked harder, not that they were smarter in any way, just that they were born during a specific time where they were just bound to get richer. Even the poorest of boomers are comparatively very rich to some millennials and even some Gen Xers, but definitely Gen Z that has nothing, that will never own a car, that will never own a home, that will never own any physical part of the country that their ancestors built and that they grew up in. They are true prisoners. If you own nothing, you have no say. If you have no say, how are you a citizen at all? You're a prisoner.
The Facebook.
At that point, my roommates were kind of like, this is pretty cool. Like, I bet this would work at other schools. So we launched it at Columbia, Yale, and Stanford. And within a couple of weeks, each of those 3 schools also had thousands of users who were like, all right, this is pretty sweet. Like, let's just go all out and see how many schools we can launch this at as quickly as possible.
About this point in time, they started to take meetings with venture capitalists and with bigger advertisers.
Despite what you've heard, says I work with a couple 65-year-olds. They have no idea what's going on. They repeat the same stories and say, have you seen that guy Tyrus? Now he's sharp. I don't know who Tyrus is, but I understand what you're saying despite what you've heard. They're mockingbirds. They're parrots, right? They just repeat what they've heard on the TV over and over and over again. And it's amazing because you can specifically hear talking points. When your boomer parents come out and say an opinion about this thing or that thing, you hear buzz phrases that you've heard over and over again. And that's a dead giveaway that they're being brainwashed. When you hear the buzz phrases that you've heard on all the news stations and MSNBC, Fox, CNN, all of those legacy media outlets, that's a dead giveaway. And again, it's from growing up lazy, right? The boomers had it best. That was the most prosperous generation, or the best living generation, because true prosperity is actually building wealth and passing it on and making a better world for your children. That's true prosperity. But they squandered and hoarded wealth. So they became the wealthiest generation in thousands of years, probably, at the expense of the next generations. They took multiple houses for themselves, so we could not have any houses. They took all the money, so we could not have any money. That's exactly what they voted for. Maybe they don't think that's what they voted for, but that's exactly what they voted for. And they're still a force in the polls, right? It's going to be a few years before the boomers pass away en masse. I think it's probably going to start happening sharply. And then we'll see what the world is like afterwards. The boomers hold almost all the money in America. A vast majority of the wealth is held by boomers. And when they all die, probably in the next 5 years would be my guess. Don't hold me to that, but I don't know. That the shot they took in 2020, there's a time limit, Not saying it's going to, but it's going to shorten your life significantly. But over the next 5 years, maybe 10. I don't think that long. These people are going to start dying off in droves of whatever, cancer or heart disease or liver failure or whatever the doctor tells them that they have. And then the government comes in and swoops up trillions of dollars in death tax and inheritance tax. Almost all of that is going to be from middle-class families. Not upper-class families. No, not the actual wealth. Not the really rich people. Because they have the money to engineer it so their money is safe from taxation. Irrevocable trusts, untaxable entities, things like that where really rich people can pass it on to their children and have no issues. No, but the guy who has one house and he doesn't have that much money, maybe a millionaire just on paper, but not that much. His house will be sold. Most of that will go to the government. The rest of it will be divvied up amongst siblings. You're basically going to get nothing. The majority of nothing. And then what's going to happen is there's going to be a feudalist society where there's a super wealthy elite that will control the underlings. And we're already seeing that now, aren't we? We're already seeing it now. Right? It shouldn't be this hard to survive. It really shouldn't. Cavemen back in the day, they took 2 hours out of their day to hunt and fish enough food for them to survive. 2 hours, that's all it took. The elderly didn't have to do that at all. Right? It just took a small group of men a couple of hours to sufficiently supply the entire tribe. So most of the time people were just hanging out and chilling, getting drunk and banging each other. And it was like that for a long time. But now we have to work, fucking 10-hour, 12-hour, whatever, days. 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week, and barely make rent on a shit apartment. Where is all your productivity going? It's going into somebody's pocket. Some pedophile's pocket. That's where it's going. Always. So you're a slave. You're tax cattle. And I'm surprised that people have not lost their shit already. When I say lost their shit, I don't mean financially, because they have lost their shit financially. Irrevocably, you are doomed at this point. I'm saying lost your shit mentally. How have most people not just said, fuck it, I'm burning this place down? What is it? Is it pills? Is it like some sort of medication in the water that just makes you be like, fuck it. Whatever. I'm screwed. I won't be able to have a family and I'll die in some dingy apartment, hooked up to my Meta Oculus. I'm plugged into the wall and my surroundings are shit and I'm freezing, but at least it's pretty inside here. That's what they want. That's where they want you. Right? They're going to put you in one of those little matrix goo tubs. If they could figure it out how to sell it to you, that's what they would do. Because you're nothing to them. You're an object. You're as basic as cattle. And they're going to show us soon how little they give a shit for us.
And this is all kind of Eduardo's doing.
They got a pretty early deal with Visa, and they had a deal with American Express. They had a number of advertisers that came and went. Then record companies started getting interested, and they began to get some pretty good revenue from the music industry.
Scruff McGruff says, I made the ultimate gamble that paid off, and it was buying a house in the fall of 2019. So what'd you get, like a 2% rate? Hang on to that.
Enter Sean Parker, who had his own connection to the music business. On a trip to New York, Zuckerberg and his partner, Eduardo Saverin, had dinner with the 24-year-old co-founder of Napster.
Scruff McGruff says, elderly wasn't 35. Average age was so low because so many children died of disease. Average age doesn't mean majority of people died at 35. Yeah, I understand that. Back in the day, the average age was like 30s or something like that. But most people died before the age of 5. So that really skewed the numbers. If you made it into adulthood, you would have an average 60, 70, sometimes 80 years. Right? So I understand that's a misleading number. I'm just clarifying.
The seasoned entrepreneur and a
1.5? Holy shit. Scruff McGruff's got 1.5 fixed interest. That's free money, dude. That good for you. Congrats. That's good.
An extraordinarily interesting person who had worked his way into a network in the Valley that is just to die for, particularly at that point.
For Zuckerberg, Parker was a hero.
Starving Autist says boomers started drug culture. The CIA started drug culture using the boomers. The free love movement. So Timothy Leary was a Harvard professor that coined the term tune in, turn on, and drop out, right? He was a big acid advocate and really pushed drugs on this generation of people. He was CIA. He was definitely CIA. So the entire hippie movement, the love child, flower people movement was an experiment to see how they could engineer a counterculture. But yes, the drug culture was also a part of that. Yeah, this was an extension of MK Ultra, and yeah, I wouldn't say the boomers started the drug culture. I would say the U.S. government, by way of the CIA and stuff, started. Because remember, the CIA was the one shipping drugs in. They were the ones manufacturing drugs. They would ship in, C-130s full of cocaine, right? And there's plenty of evidence and plenty of testimonials that say this, right? That's where the drugs came from, So yeah, it wasn't the boomers per se that started the drug culture or the hippie culture or anything like that. They were kids, for God's sakes, right? It was a large group of naive kids that all they wanted was to have fun and get money and have sex. And that's what the government gave them in spades. And they did exactly what they were told and still do to this day because they got everything they wanted, everything they desired. They had to give up civilization for it. They had to poison future generations for it, but that was no problem for them because the TV told them that, oh, the next generation is just lazy and stupid. And you're the smart, hardworking generation that built the world, right? It's not your fault that they can't make it. It's their fault for being so lazy. It's still going. It's still going. You watch it and you get infuriated. You watch the mainstream news anytime because it's directed at 60-year-olds, 70-year-olds and stuff like that. Just watch it and be like, how could they say this? But not only how could they say this, how could people actually believe it? Because boomers are so disconnected with reality that they will absorb any message that comes out of that box because they always have. 5 decades of programming is hard to break. Impossible at this point. Maybe not for all of them, but definitely 99.999%. Almost all of them. It's impossible to break and it's useless to try. So what do? You wait. What can you do? Your hands are basically tied. They want you as poor and as needy as possible because when you're poor and you're needy and you're not exactly sure where you're going to sleep that night or where your next meal is coming from, you're easily controlled. Exactly how they want it. And the boomers don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. You're poor because it's your fault. That's what they're told. That's what they're going to be continued to be told until the very end. Their entire lives have been planned out in a gigantic psyop takeover. And we're the victims. Here we are. A lot of us were vaccinated as kids and, it gave a lot of people ADHD, autism. A lot of babies died, right? No, it's not the vaccines. It's just you're just a bad parent. You're just a bad parent. You suffocated because you suck at it. They didn't know. They had no other sources of information. It poisoned the entire generation from the late 80s onward. Still to this day, people poke their babies with whatever they have in those syringes, asking no real questions. And even if they did, what would that matter? People aren't scientists in general. They don't know. It's all been a scheme. It's all been a trick.
And a role model. Partner Savarin didn't agree.
Eduardo did not think highly of Sean from the very beginning. He thought that Sean was a snake oil salesman, that they didn't need Sean, that Sean talked a big game but was living out of a duffel bag and had been kicked out of...
David Thoreau says, Jim Morrison's dad was the admiral in charge of the USS Maddox, the ship that didn't get attacked to start the Vietnam War. Yeah, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. So they said Vietnam shot missiles at them or something like that, torpedoes or something like that. Ended up being proven to be a false story, but it was enough to get the U.S. involved in Vietnam. Yeah, and that's true. Yeah, his dad, Jim Morrison. So that shows that, you know, there's family lines. There's family lines that are used in the construction of, let's call it, the New World Order. And those families are still out there today and doing the same things. What families are they? I don't know. I'm sure you could take some pretty good guesses at it, though.
2 companies.
But yeah.
In the summer of 2004, with Savarin remaining on the East Coast, Zuckerberg left Harvard.
We came out to Palo Alto for the summer just to hang out because Palo Alto is kind of this mythical place where, you know, all the startups come from, and got ready to launch at another 150 schools when the year started.
One of the things that Mark did that was very smart by going to Palo Alto was to actually enter the petri dish of entrepreneurialism, particularly for new technologies.
Zuckerberg and his friends moved into a large frame house with a swimming pool, and he reconnected with Sean
2005,
Parker,
man. 2004.
Zuckerberg's roommate.
He was the adult supervision. He's the guy.
2004, you're just fresh out of college. You move to Palo Alto and get a large house. No. Even with a bunch of your friends, fuck no, not today. No way. That would be millions of dollars. There's no fucking way. But they could do it back in 2004 or 2005. Yeah, that was possible.
Guy who showed them how things are done in Silicon Valley. He's the one who showed them how to meet investors, how to negotiate with them, who to hire.
Mark has told me stories of just all...
Starving Octa says Frank Zappa's dad worked in civil defense, making poison gas. Yeah. Yep. Yep. I mean, yeah. All these bands, all these pop stars, all these movie stars often, if you look down their family line, you will notice they have some very strange relatives, some very powerful relatives that were in key positions. So, yeah, chase that down. Look that up. And then you realize people actually aren't that talented. And in, you know, anybody trying to break into some sort of career in acting or music or something like that, you're not gonna. It doesn't matter how talented you are. It matters who you're related to. It matters what deals your parents made. With the devil, by the way. With Satan. And, you know, I'm not even saying that in like some euphemistic sense. It's a very literal sense that your parents or your grandparents or somebody in your family line made some sort of specific deal with some multidimensional being, and now you're rich. And, you know, look at the Vanderbilts. Insanely rich railroad tycoons. They were robber barons back in the day. Do you know who a descendant of that is? Is Anderson Cooper. He is an anchor on CNN, or was. He is a Vanderbilt. His mom is Gloria Vanderbilt, right? There is actually a theory because Anderson Cooper had a brother that died when he was young. There's a theory that Kathy Griffin is actually Anderson Cooper's dead brother because they look remarkably similar. And for some reason, Kathy Griffin spends a very strange amount of time, large amount of time with Gloria Vanderbilt. Why? Why is that a thing? Some people think it's an MK Ultra thing. They wanted to try the transgenderism, and they wanted to see if they could actually make somebody think they were a woman if they had been born a boy. That is the theory. I don't know if it's true, but I could see it being true. I could absolutely see that being true. Kathy Griffin does not look like a girl. She looks like an old man. Is she? I don't know.
All of the guys
I don't know.
coding late at night around dining room tables and eating chicken McNuggets and cereal.
And there's partying going on. Sean Parker is bringing them around to the different kind of cool Silicon Valley hotspots. And meanwhile, the website is growing astronomically.
David Thoreau says Bill Gates' grandfather was president of the Seattle Federal Reserve Bank. I believe it. Is Bill Gates Jewish? Is he Jewish? I don't know. Is he Jewish? I don't think he's Jewish. Is he Christian? Is he Catholic? What is he?
Astronomically fast. I mean, there's a 1 million member party by December of that year.
During this time, Parker gave Zuckerberg some shrewd advice he took to heart.
He sort of
It's a very suspicious nose.
You need to be the founder of this thing, and you need to be the CEO forever. You know, you can't turn this over to investors.
And Mark is able to negotiate a series of increasingly important investment deals that do two things. One, allow him enough operating cash to hire some of the smartest engineers in the business, and two, help him retain majority control in the company.
But tensions began to grow with Zuckerberg's original partner, Eduardo Saverin, who remained on the East Coast.
Eduardo felt that he was the business head of the company and he was no longer being treated that way. Mark and Sean were taking meetings all over California. They were meeting with venture capitalists, and they were kind of ignored.
JD Grab says, is the Pope even Catholic? It's difficult to say. What do you consider Catholicism today? I mean, it's not what it was 10 years ago, I'll tell you that. It's definitely, now it's like gay stuff and like, it's cool to take PrEP and bang each other in the ass and stuff like that. And the gay Pope. No, man, that's not, there's no way an entire religion changes that fast. Religions typically aren't supposed to change because they rely on dogmatism, right? They rely on their faith. So faith doesn't need to change, although religions do change over time. And some people say the Dead Sea Scrolls were planted for a very specific reason, to change religion in a certain direction to help this agenda. I could see that being the case. I can absolutely see that being the case. Who do they get to authenticate these? Oh, the best people. Well, who are they? The best people said these are real. Well, who the fuck are they? How do we know? How do we know those are actual books of the Bible? We have no fucking idea. Oh, you just found them in the desert? You just found them? No other copies, huh? Nothing, no other copies in history have ever been unearthed except for these scrolls found in a cave by some little shepherd boy. That is extremely suspect. But everyone just says, okay, yeah, this is how it is now. This is the religion. Do you guys know what Project Bluebeam is? Project Bluebeam is another conspiracy that says they're going to fake an alien invasion. But not just that, fake an alien invasion to lead to changing all religions into a one world religion. Very tightly controlled, with very specific tenets, requests something like that. And they're going to do this with holograms or something, right? So people say that they're connected. The Dead Sea Scrolls that were found 50, 60 something odd years ago is connected to this Project Bluebeam in a long con type of conspiracy. And people would be like, well, no, that's too long. You know, you can't have conspiracies that last long. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. Yeah, you can. Yup. Of course you can. Are you fucking retarded? Yeah. You don't think there's clubs, ministries, families that have goals that, pass down their goals to their children, even in secret? Of course they do. Of course they do. You'd be stupid to think otherwise. So, yeah, one generation could set up something that a next generation will come to fruition in. Absolutely believable and absolutely true.
Ignoring Eduardo.
He retaliated.
Eduardo froze the bank accounts to try and get Mark's attention, and Mark and Sean began to sort of figure out a way to build the company without Eduardo.
Zuckerberg responded and froze Saverin out.
Eduardo was removed from the company masthead, and he essentially became a non-entity. He became a non-person. He was
you out,
and he became very upset.
Facebook had 1 million active users on college campuses nationwide, and big money was starting to pour in. Sean Parker, the new president of Facebook, introduced Zuckerberg to Silicon Valley angel investor Peter Thiel, who put $500,000 into the company. Then,
that
in the
sounds
spring
familiar.
of
Peter Thiel?
The venture capital firm Excel Partners offered Zuckerberg $12.7 million for an 11% stake in the company.
And didn't ask for much control at all. Walking away from that investment, Mark controlled 3 out of 5 board seats.
Which is a bizarre and unprecedented situation to have one individual have absolute, effectively dictatorial control over the disposition and direction of an increasingly giant company.
Overnight, the Excel investment gave Facebook a valuation of $100 million. As Facebook's public profile grew, so did Zuckerberg.
David Thoreau says, fake aliens. In 2010, they were talking about holograms you could feel. You could feel. Interference waves making sound boom from atmosphere where the beams meet. This is 90s tech. Yeah. Oh, King of All Yeti says Thiel on PayPal. That's where I've heard. I was like, Thiel. I've heard that name before. David, yeah, I would believe they have tech like that. You don't know what kind of technology they have. They could be way ahead. Way. I mean, they could be teleporting people. We don't know. I mean, we just don't know. We have no idea what they have. Some people say the government is at least 10 years ahead. Some people say they're at least 20 years ahead. I would say they're probably closer to half a century ahead at a bare minimum, right? Because if the government acquires a technology, they're going to want to make damn sure that nobody else is going to have that technology for as long as possible, right? So half a century isn't that strange. That's actually makes sense too, because they don't start declassifying information for at least half a century most of the time. If ever. I mean, do we get stuff from Roswell? Do we get... it takes a long time for things to be declassified. Eventually they are. But not until everyone is way ahead of that. Right? Way ahead of that. So I would say 50 years ahead at minimum. What that looks like, I have no idea. I don't know what kind of technology they're going to have in 50 years or what they have now. It could be just straight up magic. It could be straight up magic. All those alien sightings, that could just be the U.S. government. You know, with their anti-grav technology. I have no idea. It seems downright likely that's what's happening. And they're like, oh no, it's aliens. It's aliens. It's definitely aliens. It's not us trying to make you all into slaves So, you know, us and our friends can live like kings at your expense as you, you know, roll around in the muck. Nah, that's aliens. That's what that is. All these people coming forward and being like, oh, there's aliens coming out of the ocean and they're flying around and we don't have the technology to do that. Are you sure? Are you sure we don't have the technology to do that? When Nikola Tesla died, what happened to his apartment? The FBI kicked the fucking door down a mere couple hours after he died. They kicked the door down and they took everything out of that apartment, everything out of that lab. And we don't know what was in there. He said he could make earthquakes happen. He said he could draw 0-point energy out of the ether. Maybe he could. Maybe he could. And the FBI snapped it up and keeps it for itself in some big-ass warehouse. They look through all the papers, see what they could build. If they couldn't build it, they'd save it for a future generation. Maybe they still have it. Maybe our world, our current world, is somewhat built on those ideas, but not the good stuff. Not the good stuff. They kept that for themselves because they wanted to maintain power and control and do this little Project Bluebeam that they had cooked up for a long time. Maybe.
Zuckerberg's control. This time, Sean Parker was edged out. In August of 2000.
King of All Yeti said, didn't he demonstrate free energy at a World's Fair? I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. Free energy, I don't know. Free energy is a tough concept. You might be thinking of like induction, where he would have like an energy source and would light up a light bulb on the other side of the room. That's not free energy. That's a type of induction. But maybe 0-point energy. Free energy does not exist. It cannot exist, right? But that doesn't mean you can't pull energy out of the background radiation of space. There's plenty of energy in it, right? And you can extract it only if you know how. It doesn't violate the rules of physics. Free energy does. But you can extract energy out of the background radiation, the nothingness that surrounds us. This is the ether, right? Has tons of it. You can access it if you know how. If anybody knew how, it was Tesla. It was definitely Tesla. And he would probably be able to do it, even at the time he was, right? Remember, this is the guy who invented remote control things. And, you know, some people say Marconi invented the radio, and it, you know, I'm going to give it to Marconi. But Tesla probably would have invented it had Marconi not invented it around the same time. So, yeah, I bet he probably had some sort of technology that was light years ahead. At a bare minimum, just light years ahead, that people still struggle to interpret. A lot of things they probably learned and, you know, put into their technology that we just don't have yet. But, yeah. Probably way ahead. Free energy, no, though.
2005, Parker was arrested for suspicion of cocaine possession.
Sweet.
Although not formally charged with a crime and immediately released, it led to his abrupt resignation as president of Facebook.
He was the primary outside face of the company.
David Thoreau says SpaceX is 30 years behind the curve. Let that sink in. 30 years behind who? The government? Okay. I believe. Remember, like, a lot of technology does come. I mean, basically all technology comes from the private sector. The government doesn't really invent things, right? They co-opt things. They own things. When you file a patent with the patent office, that means the U.S. government owns the technology, right? And you have to patent things, right? Or else you don't get paid for them. So that means the U.S. government owns the technology, and they're going to use it. And you have no say. You have absolutely no say in that. So, yeah.
And it was felt that somebody who was
the government
under
doesn't
any kind of a cloud with
it does make technology, but it hires scientists and stuff like that. But like a lot of technology still comes from the private sector. But so the private sector is making a lot of technology that the government also uses, but there's very key inventions that the government has that will not share with the public because they're too world changing. The government has world-changing tech. It just does. It has world-changing tech that would break the chains of servitude that we're under now. But it doesn't want to do that. You know, people have tried to release water-powered cars and stuff, and they work. But nope. Every time somebody does that, he ends up killing himself. Every single time. So don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. If you have an idea for a water-powered car and then you build it and it works and shit, keep it to yourself. Or release it on the internet anonymously. I don't even think that's that safe because you're not anonymous. You're not anonymous. They know what you're doing. Right? They know what you're doing. Always. Keep it to yourself. If you keep it to yourself, they're not going to bother you. They will not. You can put it in your car. You'll never pay for gas again. And then that's yours. They will not bother you. If you try to tell other people, if you try to sell that thing, they're going to stop you. And if they can't stop you, they're going to kill you. They'll try to buy you out first. But then they're just going to kill you. Right? Because you're not worth that much.
Drugs was not the right guy to be the public face of Facebook. So Mark reluctantly agreed that he ought to leave.
Facebook was growing with remarkable speed, and Zuckerberg moved the company from its frat-like house with the pool to a larger and more conventional space in downtown Palo Alto.
3, 4, 5.
But the college atmosphere remained the same.
One of the things that
just doing a cake stand.
I do focus on at
good old-fashioned cake stands.
Making sure that the culture is very friendly, you know, and that people hang out. In terms of managing this whole process, nothing, you know, nothing. Like I have no idea what I'm doing, you know.
Even their employee interviews were different. Chris Kelly was brought on in the new position of Chief Privacy Officer to deal with Facebook's increasingly contentious privacy issues.
Don't trust him.
At a time when the entire company numbered only a couple dozen employees.
The first time I met Mark, we climbed out on the roof, out through the window, and did our interview on the roof of what was then a World Wraps. And it was clear he was young, but he had a very sophisticated understanding of what had happened so far and where he wanted to take the company.
Determined to keep Facebook's unusual creative culture alive, all-night hackathons were one way to do it.
We have these hackathons at the company, right, where basically everyone gets together and just hacks on something and builds something all night long. And the only rule is that you aren't allowed to work on at a hackathon what you work on the rest of the time. So people work on crazy stuff.
King of All Yeti says DARPA invented Facebook. Yeah, well, a progenitor of Facebook, I'm sure, yeah.
Hackathons were some of the most kind of creative focus that you could ever imagine in a company. Imagining these incredibly talented engineers coming together for a night and saying, we're going to stay up all night and we're just going to program. And we're going to pick a project and we're going to get it done that night.
It's like, great, make it. We'll prototype it. And there'll be a prototype war and see who wins. It can be a contentious environment.
Bull, man, they wouldn't be able to get all the way across. No, I disagree. That's bull. We had an argument.
From Mark's point of view, this is where good ideas come from quickly and efficiently.
Good ideas were flowing. Zuckerberg then made a change that would give Facebook a sudden and dramatic boost, allowing people to identify or tag themselves and their friends in photographs.
That was a huge, huge change that led to massive new use of Facebook, and photos became very rapidly by far the most used part of Facebook and became the single biggest driver of its growth.
And they bought Instagram too, so I mean, yeah. I mean, the facial recognition technology that came out of Facebook and Instagram is, it's used all over the world. It's very important. They can recognize you wherever you are. It's very difficult to hide. Even in the third world. Try hiding in the third world. They know where you are, right? All cameras are connected. The internet is ubiquitous. Escape is futile. The only way out is death. Or you can fight, but you will die. Many, many, many will die. But you're going to die regardless. So whatever.
Up.
Make your choice.
According to Facebook's internal tracking, its user base had shot to 5.5 million users in less than 2 years. And media giants were banging on the door. In 2006, Yahoo baited the 22-year-old Zuckerberg with an extraordinary offer. A buyout for $1 billion. Even more extraordinary, Zuckerberg turned them down.
Now, if you are a parent of someone about Mark's age, you're looking at the Yahoo decision and thinking, why did you not take that money?
It's never been about money. If it was, it would have just sold out.
We just felt that doing that and going down that path would not help us build Facebook out to what we thought it could be.
Well, they made more than that. They made a lot more than that. So there you go. King of All Yeti says MySpace was so superior. I mean, I guess.
Mark Zuckerberg rejected a $1 billion...
Who uses Facebook? I don't use Facebook. I don't use Facebook. I don't care for Facebook. I don't use Instagram. I don't use shit like that. I use Twitter because, I don't know, I'm a bitch and I like fighting with people on Twitter. And yeah, I shouldn't, but I do. And I do it a lot. Follow me on Twitter, @SulkTheWhite.
From Yahoo, when MTV pushed the ante even higher. Michael J. Wolf was CEO of MTV Networks.
Mark had taken me on a walk around Palo Alto and shown me his apartment. And afterwards, we sat down for lunch, and I told him we'd be willing to pay as much as $1.5 billion to buy Facebook outright. His answer was, I think it's worth a lot more. And besides, you've seen my apartment. I don't really need that kind of money. And at the same time, I may never have an idea as good as this one. So I'm not that interested in selling.
There was internal strife around it, no question.
That's a lot of money.
People who wanted to sell.
That's
Ultimately,
$1,500 million. That's millions. 1,000 millions. And then another 500 millions on top of that. That's more money than you could ever spend in 10 lifetimes. I mean, that kind of money is going to change the trajectory of your family. Your great-great-grandkids are going to be loaded. Even further than that, the robber barons back in like the 20s, their kids are still loaded as fuck. Loaded. So $1 billion, that's a lot of money. $1.5 billion is an insane amount of money. That's an insane amount of money. What do you need? $5 to $10 million to make it through your life? Make it just a general basic lifetime. $10 million, you will be okay. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna hold out. You're gonna be good. $10 million, right? So think about 100 of those. There's 100 lifetimes. So 150 lifetimes. That's $1.5 billion. 150 lifetimes today, right? With inflation and stuff like that, it's going to drop really quickly. But if it stayed the same value, it would be a lot of lifetimes.
You know, Mark decided to turn down the offers.
Zuckerberg wasn't ready to sell because he had some ideas that he thought would make Facebook even more popular. One of them was called Newsfeed.
Aeneas says, I think I missed the episode. Here's a like. Thank you for the like. Hey, everyone hit the likes, please. If you come into my chat or you watch or even just stop by, please hit the like button. I'm a very small show. Okay? Everything counts. Everything counts. Every dollar you donate, every shirt you buy, every comment you leave on the video, it counts, and it really, I mean, it counts big for me. So please do that. Thank you, Aeneas, for dropping by. And you too, Knobs Dog. Thanks.
Real-time wire service of updates about what users were up to.
Newsfeed is what everybody is doing at that point, or what they're posting, what they're linking to, the world that they live in, which is really what a newspaper is, right? It's a living, breathing newspaper of people around you.
But many Facebook users thought that newspaper sent out too much information and violated their privacy. 750,000 of them...
Well, people don't give a shit now, right? It doesn't matter now. You have no privacy, right? You've signed away every ounce of privacy. If you ever owned a phone or bought a PlayStation or an Xbox or something like that, or anything digital, a computer, you go through page after page after page of agreement and like hit to agree, hit to agree, hit to... In Apple, you get a new terms of service every few weeks, and then you have to agree, and in those papers it says you're giving away your privacy. That's what it is. You agree to give away your privacy. It's buried in there, and even if you were to read it, you wouldn't be able to understand because it's in legalese, which is a language that you don't know. It's not the same as English. They have English words in there, but they do not mean the same thing. Certain words in legalese mean something totally different than what they do in English. You have to go to school for that. And you have to learn what it means. But even if you do know what it means, you have to read like 12 pages every other day, depending on how complicated your life is, how many terms of service you go through. There's no way you could possibly have the time. And they know that. And that's why they do this. That's why you can just skip to the bottom and say, yes, I've read, and yes, I agree. No one has read. No one can willfully agree. No one. A 12-year-old is agreeing to the terms of service, 12, 15 pages long, where he doesn't have like the reading comprehension about, but no, he hit agree, so he must have understood and agreed. So we own his soul now. No, you're not allowed to do that. But they are, because they control the legal system. So fuck you.
Launched an online protest.
To say that it was unpopular at first is a dramatic understatement. They were under siege at the office. They couldn't leave. They were surrounded by news trucks.
Almost 10% of our user base at the time joined the Students Against Facebook newsfeed group.
King of All Yeti says, I don't have a Twitter, Instagram. I haven't logged on to my Facebook in 5 years and only made a MySpace in 2010 to make my old lady mad. That's pretty funny, dude. That's pretty funny. You should bring back that MySpace and be like, hey, you should follow my MySpace. You should go around telling people, follow my MySpace. And they'll look at you like you're a time traveler. They'll be like, what? Your MySpace? Are you Tom? No, you're not Tom. Tom's dead. I don't know if Tom's dead, but I'm going to start spreading the rumor that Tom died. And, rip Tom. He was everyone's friend. And goodbye, Tom. So yeah, do that. Go around spreading. Look, I use MySpace and I still have a Napster that works somehow. God, what was popular back then? All kinds of bullshit. All kinds of bullshit. Right? That doesn't exist anymore. Do that. Be like one of those old-timey cosplayers. Only your old-timey is like 2005. And dress like you're in 2005. Do the bleached tips and the puka shell necklace and be an absolute douche. Right? And be like, hey, you follow me on MySpace, I mean, it'd be something to see. It would be something to see. You see people dress up like it's the 20s all the time. ride penny farthings around and listen to old doo-ba-doo-boop-boop music, right? Do the same thing for 2005. See if people pick up on it. Bet you the boomers won't.
Zuckerberg was forced to apologize.
Dan Snott says Tom is living on a tropical island. Does that mean he's dead? I want to say that means he's dead, dude. I don't know. You know, Tom, can somebody find Tom for me? Can somebody find my old friend Tom? We go way back, right? He was my first MySpace friend. Tom, I miss you, buddy. If you're out there, give me a sign. Somebody find Tom for me. I don't think he's alive. And if you prove me wrong, I'm going to be pissed. And I'm going to be like, I don't believe it. Because no way a friend of mine would go without contact for this long.
He wrote his apology note himself. It was probably a good learning experience. When Facebook changed some of the privacy controls, it was an overstep. I do think he takes those seriously, but I do think that he's willing to continue to overstep.
Despite what you've heard, says I deleted Facebook in 2012 and only started a Twitter 3 months ago to figure out why Daywave wasn't on. I didn't start Twitter until I was on Daywave, right? And then Royce was like, you should be on Twitter and like hang out on Twitter and stuff. It's like really good, you know. And we, you know, I was like, okay. Me and my wife Jess, we were like, okay. And so we both got on Twitter and we became menaces, right? I lost my first account. Jess still has her first account. It's gotten a decent, pretty good following. But now I just fight people and stuff. I'm a menace on Twitter. And that's Royce's fault. He created this monster. If he had not done that, I don't know. I'd be outside, I guess. I still get outside a lot. But yeah, he did this. So if anybody complains about my Twitter or like, oh, blah, 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 you go to the Cuban. Blame the Cuban. All right? Blame the Cuban. It's his fault.
For the purpose of making a product that he wants to make.
The apology was not a surrender. Zuckerberg was sure that users would get used to this new level of sharing, and he turned out to be right.
What the? Hold on. Dan Snott says Tom sold MySpace, I assume, for $580 million. It is not worth. MySpace is defunct. Somebody lost $580 million. That's it. 500. I mean, maybe MySpace is still around, but nobody uses it. $580 million. Good. I hope he has his own island and he's just there alone. That's what I would do. If I had that kind of money, I would buy an island. I would have a house or something like that, and I wouldn't tell anybody. I would live there alone. And I would whittle, right? I would learn to play the banjo. I would forget about the modern world. And I would just be isolated and happy. And I hope you guys are happy too. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you guys had fun. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you get out there and make something of yourselves. Be good cult members. Spread the word. Right? Go to your MySpace. Find Tom. He owes me money. Anyways, guys, you have a great evening. Stay strong. Stay powerful. Get a good night's sleep. Drink lots of water. And take care of yourselves. Because I care about you too. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Love you. Good night. Oh, wrong one. There we are. Hold on. Still working on this. I'm still working on all this, you guys. You know, it's a work in progress. It's not going to be perfect. Every day gets a little bit better. Hold on. There we go. That's the... That was my problem. Here we go. Goodbye. I love you. I'm spitting fire, burning through these trees.
questioning the world, unraveling conspiracies. Talking about Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster too. Government lies, they're feeding me their goo. I'm diving deep into this rabbit hole, uncovering the truth, setting fire to their control. I got small nipples, but my voice is loud, born like thunder in this crazy crowd. They say I'm crazy, but I call it woke, unraveling the madness with every word I spoke.